Welcome to Learn Commerce PU online classes. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.
Hello my dear students, welcome to economics online classes. In previous class we studied regarding the industrial sector, how the industrial sector during the colonial period and pre-colonial period. Let us see how the foreign trade during the colonial period and before the colonial rule. It means what is the condition of foreign trade before 1757 and after 1757, before and after 1757, that we are going to study in this chapter, that is Indian economy eve of independence. So let us see how the condition of India before the independence, before 1757, before the advent of British to India. India is exporter of finished goods to the Ceylon and Asia and some other European countries. So exporter of finished goods like ivory works, silk and handicraft materials. It is exporting these items because India is famous for the handicraft industries during that time. This weaving, spinning and handloom works were famous during that time. India is rich in the manufacturing activities. Thus it is exporting whatever the goods it produced during that particular period. So after the advent of British to India after 1757, these manufacturing industries were declined. It means closed. British, they closed all the cottage industries and whatever the manufacturing industries. Those manufacturing activities closed. Now people must depend on the raw material processing works. Because as I said in the before class, discriminatory policy of the British and twofold policies of British made Indians just a supplier of raw materials to the Britain, and India should act as a market for their finished goods. Now Britain is ruler country, Britain is there, it is the ruling country, and India is there, India is a colony, India is a colony, India is colony, Britain is ruling country, ruler, it is a ruler, India is a colony. Thus, British people, they dominate Indians because India is their colony. India is their colony. So, after 1757, British came to India and they established their trade in India. So, all the handicraft industries were closed, ruined. Those people lost their employment and they now dependent on the British government, and they should surrender to the British people because they don't have the income, they don't have any other materials to survive. Thus, Indians become economically very weak now. So, during this period, discriminatory policy of British make Indian economy to slow down and the path of weaker section. The twofold policy is nothing but India is just a mere supplier of raw materials to Britain and it is the market for their finished goods. Now India become market for finished goods from British people, means Britain. ಬ್ರಿಟನ್ನಿಂದ ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ವಸ್ತುಗಳನ್ನು ರಫ್ತು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಇಂಡಿಯಾವನ್ನು ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರು, ಮೊನೋಪೊಲಿ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಾಗಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾನ ಕೊಲೋನಿಯಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು. ಸೊ ದೇ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟೆಡ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಟು market their product. Why? Because Indians were ready to purchase the goods. Here all the handicraft activities closed. Now Indians population is very high and they need all the materials whatever produced in Britain government or British government. Thus Britain is supplying the raw materials to India. Supplying raw materials to India. India is supplier of raw materials to Britain, and by using that raw materials, Britain is going to supply the finished goods to India, their colony, that is India. Thus India become the market for Britain. Britain is ruler country, India is their colony. Now India should just act as a market in between India and Britain. There is no other way to survive. Thus India started just act as a market and they made them as a market. Thus monopoly control they established over India. By these two policies, one is discriminatory policy and other one is twofold policy. By these two policies they made a monopoly control on trade with India. It means they full concentrated on India only, their trade concentrated on India. That is what it is said to be the monopoly control on trade, and majority of trade restricted to British. Our majority of trade is restricted to British. ನಮ್ಮ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ರಫ್ತುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಯಾರಿಗೆ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೊಂದಿಕೊಂಡಿತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರಿಗೆ. Before the 1757, most of our trade is with the Asia and European countries, Ceylon and other countries. But after the advent of British to India, at most majority trade restricted to British, it means Britain. Now Britain made India as a colony on trade. So how they made this trade very easy? They made free trade. How the free trade is possible, you can say? Because they are supplying our raw materials and they again resupply the finished goods to India, opening up of Suez Canal. They opened the Suez Canal and they supplied these raw materials. So how the trade should be easy? Because they wanted the trade movement of goods very easily from India to Britain. Earlier it was surrounded from other countries and they were going through the routes. So they through the railways and other ways. Now they found it and they found the Suez Canal. So through the Suez Canal they started trading between India and Britain. So it is very easy for them now, supplying the raw materials to Britain from India and supplying finished goods from Britain to India. Become very easy through the Suez Canal. Now all these trade is movement of goods through the Suez Canal started. It made free trade between India and Britain. So export and import become very easily, it means easy movement of goods and service between the India and Britain through the Suez Canal started. So it is said to be the economic exploitation of Britain to their colony, that is to India. They economically exploited Indians. How they economically exploited Indians? So now Indians should depends on the these monopoly control of British, that is dominating country Britain, for their livelihood. We should export the goods, then only we get some income. So otherwise no income for us, no finished goods even for us, and whatever our earlier industries were closed, manufacturing industries were closed. Earlier India were mere supplier of jute, cotton, textiles, cardamom, raw materials, silk, wool, everything, indigo. That much rich country now surrendered to the British. It is because of their discriminatory policy and twofold policy. It is because of economic exploitation India could not trade with the other countries like Asia and European countries. So whatever the trade surplus from the trade, some surplus they get. It means if the export is more than import, then the receipts are more and payments are very less. So during that time total revenue of the country increases. So Indian total extra revenue or trade surplus, we can say this. What they are going to do? They never they used this trade surplus for the economic development activities. They use it just for the non-developmental activities. Whatever the trade surplus they get from this, they use it for the non-developmental activities. So by this they economically exploited the Indians during 1757 and after the 1757. So India is just act as a supplier of raw materials and it is the market for the finished goods from their home country. This is about the foreign trade, how the export and import taking place. Now all our export is merely, our trade is concentrated to the British and our import is finished goods from Britain. It means 90% of Indian trade is restricted to Britain during the colonial period. Next, see what is the condition of people during the colonial period. Under the demographic condition. Demographic condition is nothing but, students, condition of people in the society or country. So during the this colonial rule, even before the colonial rule, condition of people were not so good. It is because of high birth rate and high death rate during the demographic transition during the British rule, and before the independence, it was not so good. People were not so good. People living in the hunger and starvation, poverty, unemployment, we can see anywhere and everywhere, lack of employment opportunities because of this export of finished goods they were exporting earlier that were closed, manufacturing activities closed, cottage industries closed. Now people, they don't know what to do during this situation. So high birth rate, they were not taking any conscious or precautionary measures to the birth rate, reducing the birth rate. It increased the population pressure in India. Due to increase in the population, explosion that led to the poverty, unemployment, starvation, and it led to the high birth rate, lack of consciousness, civic consciousness among the people. And before 1921, 19th century, it is during this period high birth rate and high death rate. 1921 is said to be the year of Great Divide. The 1921 year is said to be the year of Great Divide because here you can see the changes in all the field, high birth rate, high death rate, and here for 48 deaths per 1000. 48% people will die and 40 of death rate and 48 of birth rate. And there are 3 stages of demographic transition, students. First stage, second stage and third stage. First stage of demographic transition started in 1921. Second stage of demographic transition is after 1921. And third stage is after 1947. After the independence. So we are seeing only 2 stages before the independence. First stage is 1921, during 1921. Second stage is after the 1921 and third stage is after 1947. So after the 1947 you are going to discuss in the next chapter. Just we are going to take the only 2 stages. First stage, second stage of demographic transition. So 1921 is year of Great Divide or year of demographic transition. It is said to be the year of demographic transition. Demographic transition. Or it is said to be the year of Great Divide. Year of Great Divide. The year 1921 is called as year of Great Divide or year of demographic transition. First phase of demographic transition started during 1921. Second stage of demographic transition started after the 1921 till 1947. So after the 1947 is said to be the third stage of demographic transition. So now see what is the first stage of demographic transition, what are the condition of people during 1921, the year of great divide or demographic transition, first phase of demographic transition. PHASE phase, first phase or first stage you can say. So during this time 1921, birth rate and death rate both were high. Birth rate also high, death rate also high. Why this both birth rate and death rate is high? Even the birth rate is high also problem, death rate is very high also problem. ಜನನ ಮರಣ ಎರಡರ ಪ್ರಮಾಣವು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. Because of lack of healthcare facilities, death rates were high. No precautionary measures, that's what the birth rate is high. So whatever the Indian were going to work, they were going to earn the income that is sufficient only to survive themselves for their food, cloth and shelter, basic needs. Even some case, some were unable to get basic needs also because of birth rate also high and death rate also high. If the birth rate is high, whatever the people going to die, 50% going to die means 50% of people going to take birth during a particular year or day. So it is because of that high growth rate of population led to the poverty, unemployment and other severe problems, illiteracy and other basic problems. So what about second stage of demographic transition? Here also you can see some changes you can see after the 1921. So year of great divide you can say, because here they estimated what is the birth rate, death rate, what is the condition of people in India. So birth rate become low and death rate also become low. During the 19th century, after the 1921, both birth rate and death rate slowly came down. It is because of healthcare facilities, good healthcare facilities and establishment of hospitals, awareness among the peoples, everything led to the control of the population and controlling the death rate also. ಜನನ ಮರಣ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಎರಡು ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೆಳಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂತು ಯಾವಾಗ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದದ್ದು ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಿ 1921 ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ 19th century. So third stage, in the third stage now what we can see after the 1947, birth rate, death rate both were controlled, birth rate and death rate both were controlled, but also still our economy is underdeveloping economy or LDC, less developed economy. It is in the list of less developed countries. Why it is in the less developed countries? It is because of high growth rate of population and lack of using our human resources. So quality and is there, skill is there, but lack of utilization of available resources that led to the, or lack of technology to utilize the resources led to the less development of our country, and it is in the list of less developed countries. Now it is trying to become more developed country or more advanced country. Still also GDP growth rate at present, GDP growth rate came down to 23%. GDP growth rate came down to 23%. It is the sign of less development. It is the sign of less development. So low literacy rate, next is. So during that particular period, during the period of before the independence and colonial rule, British never bothered about the Indians' education and increasing their literacy level. So low literacy rate. It is said that only 16% of the people were literates. 16% ಜನರು ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಾಕ್ಷರತೆಯನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿದ್ರು, ವಿದ್ಯಾವಂತರಾಗಿದ್ರು. Female literacy rate was considerably low. It is only 7%. Female literacy rate was considerably low. ಅಷ್ಟು ತುಂಬ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇತ್ತು ಮಹಿಳಾ ಸಾಕ್ಷರತಾ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ, ಓನ್ಲಿ 7%. It means hardly few females were going to get the education. opportunities are there also, they were not ready to get the education because of during that time social conditions were very crucial. You know that you studied in the your lessons in 9th and 10th standard social science. What is the social condition of people during the particular period, British rule and all. So even the women were unable to get the education, their literacy rate is just 7%, just 7%. So poor healthcare facilities during that time, as I said, due to the poor healthcare facilities, death rate were high. Even the birth rate also high. There were no any precautionary or preventive measures and curative measures. Curative medicines and these precautionary medicines were not available during that period. So both birth rate and death rates were considerably high, and low life expectancy during the period of 1757 until the 1947. Why low level of expectancy rate? Life expectancy means ಜೀವಿತಾವಧಿ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದವನು ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಬದುಕಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಓವರ್ ಆಲ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬದುಕ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದರ ಮೇಲೆ 100ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು 100% ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ದೋಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ 38 years ಈಸ್ ದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್. 38 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪವರ್ಟಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಟ್ರಸಿ, ಅನ್ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಲೋ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ and unable to survive in the economy. Exploitation by the Britishers, dominated by Britishers, led the life expectancy rate to 38 years. It was very low, but at present life expectancy rate increased to 69 years. ಈಗ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಜೀವಿತಾವಧಿ ಎಷ್ಟು? 69 ವರ್ಷ. So some can exception is there, some can live 100 and plus, some may die at 30 or 35 years. It depends on the health and healthcare facilities. It is because of advance in the health and healthcare facilities. At present our life expectancy rate is 69 years. So this is about the demographic condition during the colonial period. So there are two main things you should note here. One is first phase or first stage of demographic transition, and second stage of demographic transition. First stage is 1921 and before the 1921, and 1921 is said to be the year of great divide or year of the demographic transition takes place, and after the 1921 is said to be the second stage or second phase of demographic transition. So what about the birth rate and death rate? That you should know, and literacy rate you should know. So during the particular period, the literacy rate is 16%, male literacy is 16%, and female literacy is only 7%. Poor healthcare facilities led to the high birth rate and high death rate. Low life expectancy rate. It is because of lack of healthcare facilities, expectancy rate decreased to 38 years during that particular period. Now it is because of increase in the healthcare facilities, the life expectancy rate increased from 38 years to 69 years at present. So next we are going to discuss about what is the condition of the people and occupational structure during the colonial rule. Thank you.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.